is inversely proportional to pressure. Because if this pressure will come to this side, then volume will be inversely proportional to pressure. This implies if we are decreasing the volume, then pressure will increase. Since these two properties are inversely proportional. If you will decrease the volume, pressure will increase, and if you will increase the volume, then pressure will gradually decrease. Otherwise, you can also tell if you are increasing the pressure, volume will decrease, and if you are decreasing the pressure, then volume will increase. So pressure and volume are inversely proportional. So based upon this principle, okay, we have constructed the compressor. So compressor is work upon this principle. What it will do? It will compress. Compress means it will increase the pressure of the gas or air, and if the pressure will increase, what happens to its volume? Its volume will decrease. Okay, so that is exactly the definition I have written over here in the PPT. Yeah, so first point, a compressor is a mechanical device. First point, the compressor is a mechanical device that increases the pressure of a gas by reducing its volume. It will compress the gas, it will increase the pressure by reducing the volume. So here in this diagram, here you can see the compressor. So this is a typical diagram of compressor. Okay. So what happened here? You can see this part. Okay, here we have the cylinder, one cylinder we have kept here. Okay, and here in this tank we are going to store the compressed air. Okay, so this part, this is nothing but this part what you are watching here. Okay. So this part, this is a motor. Okay. So this is nothing but this is a motor, and here this part is a cylinder where we are going to compress the air. So this is the cylinder. C stands for cylinder. Okay, and this is the air tank. This red color cylindrical tank, this is the air tank where we are going to store the compressed air. Means inside this cylinder we are going to compress the air. You know, after we are compressing the air, then we are going to transfer those compressed air to store inside the cylinder. Okay, and suppose you are running your bike or car. Okay, and suppose you have a deficiency in the pressure in the tire. Okay, so then you are going to stop. Then what they are doing, they are putting some compressed air into your bike tires. Okay, if you see in that pipe will be connected with a tank in this manner. Okay, so in this tank they store the compressed air, and they will supply that compressed air to the bike tire or car tires. Okay. So major difference between a pump and a compressor, because both pump and compressor, they are used to compress the air. Okay, so the major difference between a pump and compressor is that compressor handles the gases and pumps will handle the liquid. So what about the compressor we are talking about? Compressor handles the gases, means it will only handle the air, whereas the pump, it will handle liquid. Mostly it will handle the water. So that is the major difference between pump and compressor. In interview they will ask you this common question: what is the difference between pump and compressor? Both are used to compress the gas or liquid, but the major difference between a pump and a compressor is compressor will handle air, it will compress the gas, and pump will handle the liquid or water. So some applications we are using the compressor in air conditioner. Okay, it will be having some home and industrial it will use in refrigeration process also. Okay, some hydraulic compressors are used in industrial machining also, and air compressors are used in industrial machining. So these are some examples, some applications of compressor. So mostly what question they will ask from this slide, 2 marks question they will ask you, define air compressor. Okay, or they may ask you what is the difference between a pump and air compressor. Like that, some question they will ask. Okay, so I think what the definition of compressor is clear. It is used, compressor mainly it will handle the air. It is used to increase the pressure of a gas or air by decreasing its volume, because pressure and volume are inversely proportional. If you are increasing the pressure, then by default volume will decrease. So this is the definition part. Next we will come to the classification of compressor. Okay. So in classification of compressor, basically we have 2 types of compressor. One is positive displacement compressor. Second one is dynamic compressor. Okay. And this positive displacement compressor is 2 types. One is reciprocating compressor. Second one is rotary compressor. And this dynamic compressor is also 2 types. One is centrifugal compressor. Second one is axial compressor. Okay, so these are the classification. You have to remember classification of compressor, 2 marks question they will ask, and regarding this you have to some points you have to write. Okay, so if broadly we will see the classification, so based upon the principle of operation we have 2 types of compressor. One is positive displacement compressor, second one is steady flow compressor. Okay, so what happens in positive displacement compressor? In positive displacement compressor, positive displacement compressor work by forcing the air in a chamber whose volume is decreased to compress the air. So we are going to discuss regarding this positive displacement compressor in the next slide. Okay, how this positive displacement compressor will work. So what happens in this positive displacement type compressor? We have a chamber, we have a cylinder will be there. In that cylinder, we are supplying the air by doing some work on it. Okay, and when we are supplying the air, after that what we are doing, we are compressing the air, we are applying pressure by decreasing the volume of the compression chamber. So mostly that only I have written. In positive displacement type compressor work by forcing the air into the combustion into the chamber whose volume is decreased to compress the air. So positive displacement compressor, how it will compress? It will decrease the volume of the chamber. And we know if the chamber volume will decrease, then pressure of the volume or pressure of the air will increase. And once the pressure will increase, then we can say that we have obtained the compressed air. And second type is steady flow compressor. Mostly the rotary type compressor is steady flow compressor. This positive displacement type compressor is reciprocating compressor. What do you mean by reciprocating and rotary? In reciprocating compressor, the piston inside the cylinder will move up and down. Okay, if the piston will move in up and down motion, that is called a reciprocating motion. So this positive displacement type compressor based upon reciprocating movement of the piston, whereas the steady flow compressor based upon rotary movement of the piston. So here the piston will move in a rotational direction. Okay, so it is a, that's why it is a rotary compressor. Second classification is based on acting. So based on acting, we have 2 types: single acting compressor and double acting compressor. Okay, in single acting compressor, the air is compressed in one side of the compressor, whereas in double acting compressor, the air is compressed on both the side of the compressor. What do you mean by one side? What do you mean by both side? In the subsequent slides with figure, I will show you. Okay, for the time being, you just remember the classification. Single acting, here compression will be takes place at one side of the compressor, and in double acting, compression is takes place on both side of the compressor. Then based upon number of stages, it is single stage and multi-stage. In single stage compressor, air is compressed in one cylinder. There is only one cylinder and inside that cylinder air will compress, so it will be single stage compressor. In case of multi-stage compressor, here air is compressed on more than one cylinder. I mean, in multi-cylinder engine, we have multi-stage compressor where more than one cylinder will be there. Next classification, fourth one, based on delivery pressure. Okay, so when we are compressing the compressor, once the air is compressed, then we have to supply that compressed air into this tank. We have to supply. So inside this cylinder, this is the cylinder. Inside this cylinder, we are going to compress the air by decreasing its volume. And once we are compressing the air, after that we will supply that air. I mean, we will supply that compressed air to this air tank. Okay, so at what pressure we are supplying the air? So you can see one pressure gauge is here, there. Okay, I hope you can see it. So I will show you. Wait. So this part you can see one pressure gauge is there. This is a pressure gauge. Okay, so after the compression, we are supplying the air through this pipe to this air tank. So before supplying the air tank, here we'll be having a pressure gauge. This will measure what is at which pressure we are supplying the air to this air tank. Okay, so there is an arrangement to measure the pressure of the air. So based upon this, we have three types of compressor. Based upon the delivery pressure, we have three types of compressor. One is low pressure compressor, medium pressure compressor, and high pressure compressor. So low pressure compressor, here the maximum pressure is up to 1.1 bar, because we have various applications. For example, in your bike tire, for bike the pressure requirement is comparatively less, and when you are coming in car, in that the pressure requirement is comparatively more as compared to bike. In the lorry, trucks, in there even you have to supply some high amount of pressure. So we have different category of pressure application. So based upon that, we have three types of compressor. In low pressure compressor, the maximum pressure is up to 1.1 bar. Okay. In medium pressure compressor, we are increasing the pressure up to maximum of 7 bar. And in high pressure compressor, it will be, the pressure is more than 7 bar. Actually here I forgot to write, here pressure is more than 7 bar. Okay, so in high pressure compressor, the delivery pressure will be more than 7 bar. So based upon the delivery pressure, we have these three types of compressor. And last classification, based upon the capacity. So based upon the capacity, we have also three types of compressor. So what are those? The first one is regarding low capacity compressor. Second one, medium capacity compressor. And the third one is high capacity compressor. Okay. So what do you mean by low capacity, medium capacity, and high capacity compressor? So low capacity compressor means here the volume flow rate is less than 12 meter cube per minute. Capacity means volume. How much volume of air it is supplying to the air tank. That is called as capacity. Okay. So for if you will consider low capacity compressor, here the volume flow rate is 12 meter cube per minute. Unit of volume is meter cube. And since I have written volume flow rate, rate means per unit time. So that's why I have written divided by minute. Meter cube per minute is the symbol of, is the unit of volume flow rate. Okay. In case of low capacity compressor, the volume flow rate is less than 12 meter cube per minute. In medium capacity compressor, the volume flow rate is less than 200 meter cube per minute. So maximum it can deliver 200 meter cube per minute volume flow rate. And in high capacity compressor, the volume flow rate is more than 300 meter cube per minute. This exact number you do not have to remember. Some approximate number also you can write. You can write it 10, you can write it 200, and this can be 300. So exact number you do not have to remember. Okay. So this type of question they will ask, discuss regarding the classification of compressor. Okay. So if in the current semester your question paper pattern is like part A and part B, means in part A 2 marks and 3 marks questions are there, then you can get this kind of question, classification of compressor. But if they will ask 8 marks or 15 marks question like they are asking the last semester, total 8 question, out of 8 question any 5 you have to write, then in that case this classification of compressor I don't think they will ask. Okay, so this classification of compressor is 2 marks or 3 marks question. If they will ask, then this 5 classification you have to write. You have to draw this one and you have to write the 5 classification. Based upon the principle of operation, we have positive displacement and steady flow compressor. Based upon the acting, we have single acting and double acting compressor. Based upon the number of stages, we have single stage compressor and multi-stage compressor. And based upon the delivery pressure, we have low pressure compressor, medium pressure compressor, and high pressure compressor. And based upon the capacity, we have low capacity compressor, medium capacity compressor, and high capacity compressor. Okay, so these are some classification of compressor. Right. So after that, whatever the long question we can expect in the exam, one theoretical question we will discuss, then one derivation also we will do related to this. The question is the principle of operation of reciprocating air compressor. Principle of operation of reciprocating air compressor. How the reciprocating air compressor? What do you mean by reciprocating? Reciprocating means up and down motion. If the piston will move upward and downward in that manner, that motion is called reciprocating motion. So in case of reciprocating air compressor, how the construction it will be, how the working principle will be, that we are going to discuss in our next slide. Okay. Just a minute. So this is the construction of a reciprocating air compressor. So how here in this diagram I told you, we have in the compressor, we have a tank. This is the storage tank where we are going to store the compressed air. Okay. And here we will be having a cylinder. This is nothing but a cylinder. Inside this one, the piston will reciprocate up and down motion if it is a reciprocating air compressor. Okay. And one motor is there. Okay, when we will start this motor will rotate the crankshaft, and if the crankshaft will rotate, the piston will move up and down. Okay, and when it will compress the air, after compressing the air, the compressed air, the piston will supply to the air tank. Okay, so this is the basic thing, how the compressor will work. This exact compressor is there in our lab, in our thermal engineering lab in the college. This exact instrument is there. Once you will come to college, all these things I will show you. Okay? And once again, I will discuss the operation of this air compressor in the college, when the college will start. So now you will see the principle of operation of reciprocating air compressor. 5 marks question they will ask. Discuss the principle of operation for a reciprocating air compressor. Now coming to the construction part. Okay, so first construction of single acting air compressor. Here you can see it consists, first point, it consists of an airtight piston and cylinder arrangement. Okay, so here you can see this is the cylinder, and inside this cylinder, this is the piston. Okay, so this is the piston. So it contains an airtight cylinder and piston arrangement. I think this diagram is visible to you. Otherwise, I will try to increase the brightness of this one. Yeah, now this is visible. First point, construction, it consists of an airtight piston and cylinder arrangement. So this is the cylinder, okay, this rectangular block, this is the cylinder, and inside this cylinder, what we have? This is the piston, one piston we have. And this piston is connected with connecting rod. This is the connecting rod, and this connecting rod is connected with crankshaft. This is the crankshaft. And this crankshaft is connected with motor. This M stands for motor. Which one is motor? This is the motor. I will show you. This is the motor. Okay. And this is the cylinder. Inside this cylinder, we have the piston and connecting rod. And here we will be having the crankshaft. Okay. This motor is connected with crankshaft. So here you can see one belt arrangement is there. Okay. One belt is there. So when this motor will rotate, when we will start this motor, when this one will rotate, it will rotate the crankshaft. And when the crankshaft will rotate, the connecting rod will move, and when the connecting rod will move, the piston will move upward and downward. Okay, and it will compress the air. Okay, so that thing I have shown here in this diagram. This is the cylinder. Inside the cylinder, this is the piston. Okay, this piston is connected with connecting rod, and this connecting rod is connected to crankshaft, and this crankshaft is connected to motor. So that when this motor will rotate, this crankshaft will rotate, and when this crankshaft will rotate, the connecting rod will move up and down, and simultaneously the piston will also move up and down. When the piston will move off, it will compress the air. When it will move down, it will expand the air. Okay. And here we have two valves. This is the suction valve or inlet valve. This is the discharge valve or exhaust valve. Through the suction valve, air will enter. So here one air filter is there, because atmospheric air, some dust particles will be there. Okay, and we have to remove those dust particles. That's why here we'll be having a filter. So air from the atmosphere will enter to the filter, and in this filter we will remove the dust particle or impurities which is present in the air. After that, the purified air we will supply to the inlet valve. Okay, when this piston will move down, due to the suction, this inlet valve will open and air will enter into the cylinder. Then the inlet valve will close, and when the piston will move upward, since it will gradually decrease the volume, it will compress the air, and the air pressure will increase. And once it will compress the air, after that this discharge valve will open, or the outlet valve will open. Then the compressed air from the cylinder will move through this pipe to the storage tank. This is the storage tank. So in this diagram, this is the storage tank, this red color tank, this red color cylinder, this is the storage tank. Okay, here I have shown here. So this discharge valve will open and compressed air will go and it will store inside this storage tank. And from this storage tank, we will supply the compressed air to the bike tires or car tires like that. Okay, this is the general construction of a reciprocating air compressor. Why reciprocating I have written here? Because the piston will move in upward and downward motion. The piston will move in this motion, up, down, like this the piston will move. That's why the name is reciprocating air compressor. Okay. So the first point, it consists of airtight piston and cylinder arrangement. Okay. So piston is there and cylinder arrangement is there. The piston is connected to a connecting rod. Okay, so this piston is connected with connecting rod, which is connected to a prime mover. So this prime mover means this motor is called as prime mover. Okay, the prime mover can be the engine or an electric motor. Prime mover means the body which is responsible to give the movement. That is called as prime mover. So here, which one is giving the movement? This motor. Once this motor will rotate, then only this engine will start running. So that's why this motor will be prime mover over here. That is the meaning of prime mover. Okay. Third point, the cylinder is provided with inlet and outlet valve as shown in the figure. Okay, the cylinder is provided with inlet valve, or it is called a suction valve, and outlet valve, or it is called as discharge valve. Okay, anything you can write. So this is the general arrangement. I think it will be very simple for you, because in unit 1 we have discussed this, in unit 2 we have discussed this, and in unit 3 once again we are discussing this one. What is the difference? In unit 1 and 2, along with air, we are supplying petrol also, we are supplying fuel also. But here we are not going to supply the fuel. We are only, because I want only air, compressed air. So we will just supply the air, we will compress it, then we will store it. Okay. So normally how many strokes we have? If you can remember, in unit 1 I have discussed. Okay, in a 4-stroke engine, IC engine, and here I will write air compressor. So here in a case of IC engine, total we have 4 strokes. First one is suction stroke. Second one, compression stroke. Third one, expansion stroke. And fourth one, exhaust stroke. Like that, 4 strokes we have in case of IC, that we have studied in unit 1. But here, in case of air compressor, the first stroke will be suction, obviously. So here the first stroke will be suction. Second stroke, same compression. We are going to compress the air because we need the compressed air. So second stroke will be compression. What will be the third stroke? In case of IC engine, during suction stroke, we are supplying air and fuel mixture. Okay, so that's why after the compression, we are doing the combustion. We are burning the air fuel mixture. The air fuel mixture will blast. So, and for that reason, we are getting expansion stroke in case of IC engine. But here in the compressor, we are not supplying any fuel. We are not supplying petrol. We are not supplying diesel. We are only supplying air during the suction process. So there will be no combustion. There will be no burning of air. Only we are going to compress the air. And once we are getting the compress, then we do not have this expansion stroke. Directly we have exhaust stroke. Okay. In suction stroke, air will enter to the cylinder. During compression stroke, we will compress the air by decreasing the volume of the cylinder. And once we compress the air, then we will open the exhaust valve, and through this exhaust stroke, we will transfer the air from the cylinder to the storage tank. Okay. So that is the difference between air compressor and IC engine. Here we have a expansion stroke. Okay, but in compressor there is no expansion stroke. So screen sharing is not visible. I am not sharing any screen. Currently, I am not sharing any screen. Can you see this paper or not? Whatever I am writing. IC engine and air compressor. This, can you see this thing or not? Whatever I am writing now. Because just now I have stopped screen sharing. Can you see this thing? This IC engine and compressor difference I have written. Here I have written some strokes name. Can you see this thing or not? Because screen sharing I have stopped. I am writing something here. So that's why I have stopped the screen sharing. This thing is visible or not to you? Somebody respond.
Yes, sir.
It is visible, na?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, right. So screen sharing I have stopped now. So why what I am trying to telling you, I am trying to telling you the difference between IC engine and compressor. Okay, in IC engine we have the expansion valve, but in compressor we do not have the expansion stroke. Why? Because in IC engine, during the suction process, we are supplying a mixture of air and fuel. That's why during the compression stroke, when we will burn this air fuel mixture, okay, it will ignite, it will blast, and hence we are getting expansion process. But in air compressor, during the suction stroke, only we are supplying air. And during compression stroke, we are compressing the air, we are increasing the pressure of this air by decreasing the volume. And after that, we are just opening the exhaust valve and we are exhibiting the exhaust stroke and we are supplying that compressed air to the compressor, to the storage tank. Okay, that is the difference between an IC engine and air compressor. Right? Now I am sharing the screen. So when I have to write, I need to stop the share because until and unless I have not stopped sharing, I cannot write. Okay. So whenever I will write, I have to stop the screen share. And whenever I have to explain, I have to run the screen share. Okay. So this is regarding the construction of a single acting reciprocating air compressor. You have to draw the diagram. Okay. Very simple diagram it is. And just 2-3 points related to this diagram you have to write. Now the working principle also I have explained to you. So let's quickly we will see this one. After that, one video, small video I will play. So working principle. First point, the prime mover. Prime movers means, you just remember, prime mover means electric motor or any engine. This motor, whatever I have attached here, this motor is nothing but a prime mover. The prime mover provides reciprocating motion to the piston. Okay. What happened when this prime mover, or when this motor will rotate, this crankshaft will also rotate. When this crankshaft will rotate, the connecting rod will move up and down. And when this connecting rod will move up and down, this piston will also move up and down. Okay, and the up and down motion of the piston is called as reciprocating motion. So first point I have written, the prime mover will provide the reciprocating motion to the piston. Second point, this causes the piston to move to and fro in the cylinder. To and fro means up and down. To means towards this, towards the up position, and fro means towards down position. You can write up and down motion also. Okay, this is a technical term, to and fro. In place of to and fro, if it is difficult for you, you can write this causes the piston to move upward and downward in the cylinder. Right? Third point, when the piston moves backward means downward. When the piston will come downward, it creates vacuum, thus sucking in the air or gas through the inlet valve. When this piston will move downward, inside this cylinder, vacuum will generate. Okay, and when vacuum will generate, you know, vacuum pressure is less than atmospheric pressure. So outside the atmosphere, pressure will be more, and inside the cylinder, pressure will be less due to creation of vacuum. So pressure difference is there between outside atmosphere and inside cylinder. So what will happen? Air will move from the outside atmosphere to the inside cylinder through this suction valve. That's what I have written here. Third point. When the piston moves backward or when the piston moves downward, it creates a vacuum, thus sucking the air or gas through the inlet valve. When vacuum will generate, this inlet valve will open and atmospheric pressure will enter to the cylinder through this inlet valve. Fourth point, as the piston moves forward means when the piston will move upward, it compresses the air by applying force. And as the piston reaches its furthermost point, the compressed air exits through the outlet valve. Means when this piston will move from bottom dead position to top dead position, what will happen? Gradually the volume of the cylinder will decrease. And when the volume of the cylinder will decrease, it will increase the pressure of the air by applying force upon it. Okay, and when the air is completely pressurized, when it will completely compressed, then this discharge valve or this outlet valve or this exhaust valve will open, and the compressed air will move from the cylinder through to this pipe, then to the storage tank. Okay. Next, as the air is compressed, its temperature will also increases considerably. You know, pressure and temperature is directly proportional. If you are increasing the pressure, correspondingly, its temperature will also increase. Okay. Thus, in two strokes of the piston, the air is compressed. In suction stroke, it will enter the air inside the cylinder, and during compression stroke, it will compress the air inside the cylinder. So, in two strokes of the piston, the air is compressed. However, the output of the compressed air is not continuous, as only during one stroke the compression occurs. So the last point is not mandatory for you. So this is the total working principle of a reciprocating air compressor. Very simple. First, the piston will move downward. When the piston will move downward, vacuum will generate. And you know, vacuum pressure is less than the atmospheric pressure. So there is a pressure difference between cylinder and atmosphere. So air will flow from high atmospheric pressure to low atmospheric cylinder through this inlet valve, that is called a suction stroke. Then the piston will move from bottom dead center to top dead center, that is the compression stroke. It will compress the air, it will apply pressure on the air by decreasing the volume of the cylinder. Now in the exhaust stroke, when the air is completely compressed, this discharge valve or outlet valve will open, and the compressed air will move from the cylinder to this storage tank. And as the pressure of the air will increase, proportionally the temperature of air will also increase, because pressure and temperature are directly proportional to each other. If you will increase the pressure, then we are going to increase the temperature also. Right? So this is regarding the construction and working of a single acting reciprocating air compressor. Okay. Single acting means during only the compression stroke, during only one stroke, the air is compressed. That's why it is single acting. Because in which stroke we are compressing the air? Only during the compression stroke, only during the one stroke, when the piston will move from bottom dead center to top dead center, only at that stroke we are going to compress the air. So it is single acting. Why reciprocating? Reciprocating why? Because the piston is moving upward and downward motion, to and fro motion. That's why the name is reciprocating compressor. Okay, so this is the construction part we have discussed. This is the working principle we have discussed. Okay. Now regarding this thing, one small video I would like to play. Okay, just you see this video, then we'll start the derivation part. If the sound is not coming, whenever I will play the video, if you cannot hear the sound, then you tell me. Once again I will do some changes. Okay, so I am going to play it. Just have a look on this video.
An air compressor is a device which takes input mechanical power, typically from a motor, and converts it to fluid air power. The compressed air can be stored for later use in compressed air tanks, or it can be transferred via pipes to a point of use. Compressors with a piston.
Is it audible to you? The sound is audible to you? Somebody please respond. Can you hear the video sound?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
As the compressing element are called reciprocating compressors. Compressors can also be made with vanes or impellers. These types of compressors are called rotary compressors. Rotary compressors typically consist of a cylindrical housing with adjustable rotary vanes, an inlet, and an outlet. The vanes are on an off-center drive shaft. As the shaft rotates, the vanes slide in and out to maintain contact with the cylindrical compressor wall. As they do, they create chambers within the cylinder of varying sizes. Air enters at the largest chamber. As the vanes rotate, they retract, causing the chamber to get smaller and compress the air. Air exits at the smallest chamber. Rotary compressors are typically free of the vibration and pulsation that occurs with reciprocating compressors. A typical reciprocating compressor consists of a housing with an internal piston connected to a crankshaft. As the crankshaft turns, a piston reciprocates within the cylindrical housing. There are two valves at the head of the cylinder, an inlet and an outlet. The inlet, sometimes called the suction valve, allows atmospheric air to enter the cylinder. The outlet, sometimes called the discharge valve, ejects the newly compressed air from the cylinder. As the crankshaft turns, the piston lowers and raises, changing the available volume within the cylinder. The downward stroke of the piston is called the suction stroke. The upward stroke is called the compression stroke. As the piston moves downward on its suction stroke, the volume increases within the cylinder. As the volume increases, the pressure within the cylinder becomes lower than the inlet air pressure. This allows the higher pressure outside air to push open the inlet valve and allow more air into the cylinder. As the piston begins its upward compression stroke, the volume within the cylinder decreases. The decrease in volume causes the pressure within the cylinder to increase. The increase in pressure opens the outlet valve and compressed air discharges from the cylinder. This is a single-stage compressor. It has only one piston and cylinder and compresses the air in only one stage. A single-stage compressor typically has a compression ratio of 5:1 with an output pressure of about 50 to 75 psi. As air is compressed, it becomes increasingly hot. If the air becomes too hot, not only is the compression cycle less efficient, but there is the hazard of an explosion if any hydrocarbon material, such as oil or lubricant, comes into contact with the overheated air. To avoid the hazards of overheating and still generate higher pressures, manufacturers make compressors with multiple stages. The air is compressed in the first stage, which is typically the largest stage, then cooled, then compressed in a second stage. The hot compressed air from the first stage is conducted to the second stage through thinned tubing, which is exposed to the air from a flywheel fan. After the air is cooled within the tube, the compressed air enters the second stage to be compressed even further. The compressed air entering the second stage is sometimes called supercharged air. Two-stage compressors have a compression range of 3:1 or even less per stage, but can operate up to 175 psi. They can also deliver more air at a higher pressure than single-stage compressors of the same horsepower. If pressures of more than about 175 psi are needed, multi-stage compressors should be used. On these larger compressors, cooling may take place by circulating water instead of air. To reach a pressure of 2,500 psi, as many as 6 or 7 stages may be needed, with cooling between each stage. Their versatility makes compressors one of the primary components in air production.
Find out how our thousands of hours of knowledge and experience can help you.
Okay, so Right. So you have seen how a single stage air compressor will work. In this video, they have also explained regarding double stage and multi-stage. But for the time being, those things are not required. Just you will concentrate on single stage air compressor. So this is the working principle behind a single stage air compressor. Next, we are going to calculate how much work we are getting in this compression process. Okay, how much work we have to do during this compression process, because without work done, we cannot compress the air. Okay, so we are going to find out how much work we have to do in order to compress the air inside the air compressor. So related to this one, we have a previous year question also. First, I will tell you what is the question they have asked previously. Then we will start doing the derivation. Very easy derivation. Already, I think in thermodynamics, Guru Shankar sir already discussed this derivation to you. But anyway, we will do it once again. So this is the question paper of 2019. This is JNTU 2019 question paper. In this here they have asked one question, like question number 7A. Question number 7A. Okay. So what is this question? The question is derive the expression for work done when compression is isentropic for a single stage reciprocating air compressor. We have already discussed regarding the working principle and construction of single stage reciprocating air compressor. Now we are going to derive an expression for work done during the compression process. Okay, during this compression process, how much work we have to do in order to get the compressed air. For that, one expression we have to find out. And how the compression process is? The compression process is isentropic. Okay, what do you mean by isentropic? Can anybody tell what is the meaning of this isentropic? Because in gas turbine unit 5 already I have told you regarding this isentropic. What is this isentropic process? Which value is constant during this process? In thermodynamics also in unit 2, second law of thermodynamics, you might have studied regarding this process. So what do you mean by isentropic? Can anybody tell? You can put a message or you can tell also. What do you mean by isentropic? Okay, one message I got. Entropy constant 313. Yes, correct. What is the other name of isentropic process? Can you tell? I have told this thing in unit 5 in gas turbine. Okay. So isentropic, first I will discuss regarding this isentropic, then we will start. So we are going to do the derivation for this one. This is a 5 marks question, as you can see. Okay, question number 7A, 5 marks question. One derivation they have asked from this, and in 7B, one problem they have asked from the single acting two-stage reciprocating air compressor. So this problem, the next class we are going to do. This problem parts in the next class we are going to do. Okay, but today we are going to see the derivation part. Derive the expression for work done when compression is isentropic. Right. Work done during isentropic compressor of air compressor. So this will be the heading. How much work we are getting. So what is the formula of work done? How much work we are getting, that we are going to see. So for that we have to draw a PV diagram. And from this PV diagram, we are going to find out the expression. P indicates the pressure, V indicates the volume. So what happened in first stage? We have the suction. What happened during the air compressor? We have total 3 stages, as I told you. In case of air compressor, total we have 3 stages. One is suction stage, second one is compression, and third one is exhaust. So what happens during suction stage? During suction stage, inlet valve will open and air will enter, atmospheric air will enter to the engine cylinder. Okay. So in the first stage, in the step 1, in first step, what will happen? In step 1, we will be having suction stroke. First, we will be having suction stroke. Okay, in the suction stroke, what will happen? Inlet valve will open in the stroke. Inlet valve opens and air enters the cylinder at constant pressure. Okay, this is the first step. In first step, we have suction stroke, and during this stroke, the inlet valve will open and the air will enter the cylinder at constant pressure. Okay, so constant pressure, this is pressure axis, this is volume axis. So if I will say regarding constant pressure, on the constant pressure line will looks like this. This is constant pressure, a horizontal line. So this line indicates constant pressure line. So here in this process, pressure remain constant. P means pressure equal to constant. So first point is, suppose I will give the name it 0, and this point is, suppose I will name it 1. This is the step 1. Suction stroke, inlet valve will open, air will enter. Okay, what happened during the suction stroke? The piston will move downward. If the piston will move downward, the cylinder volume will increase. So that's why you can see from this point to this point, the cylinder volume will gradually increase. If you will go in this direction, volume will increase. If you will go in this direction, pressure will increase. Okay, so from here to here, we have suction stroke. So during the suction stroke, pressure remain constant and volume will increase because we are going in this direction. That is the suction process. Okay, this is step 1, clear? Now we will come to the step 2. Now we will come to step 2. In step 2, what will happen? Compression. What kind of compression we are talking about? Suppose isentropic compression. So second step is, suppose isentropic compression. Okay, so here what will happen? Inlet valve will close because during compression stroke, both the valves should be closed. Inlet valve closes. Okay, and pressure, because it is a compression process, so during compression process, pressure of the air will increase. So pressure increases from P1 to P2 isentropically. since this is isentropic compression process, so here during this compression process, inlet valve will close and pressure will increase because this is the compression process. So pressure will increase from P1 to P2 isentropical, because we are talking regarding isentropic compression. This isentropic process is also called as reversible adiabatic process. Okay, isentropic process is also called as reversible adiabatic process. So how this process will looks like, if you can remember, this reversible adiabatic or isentropic process in a P versus V diagram, the process will looks like this, like a curve line. Okay, so this process 1 to 2. Okay, so step one is from process 0 to 1. Step 1 is process 0 to 1, and step 2 is process 1 to 2. Step 2 indicates process 1 to 2. Okay, so what is this process? This curved line indicates isentropic compression. Why compression? See, at point 1, what is the pressure? At point 1 here, okay, suppose in this line the pressure is, in this line, suppose the pressure is P1, because it is a constant pressure line. So in this process the pressure is suppose P1. So in this point, what is the pressure? So in this point, suppose the pressure is P2. So if you will compare between P1 and P2, which one is more? So P2 is greater than P1, because I told you this is pressure axis, and if you will go upward, pressure will gradually increase. So if you will compare the pressure between P1 and P2, so P2 is greater than P1. So that's why I have written here the inlet valve will close and pressure increases from P1 to P2. Here in this point, pressure is P1. In this point, we are getting the pressure P2. So pressure increases from P1 to P2 during this isentropic compression process or reversible adiabatic process. And for adiabatic process, what is the equation? For adiabatic process, the equation is PV to the power gamma equal to constant. This is the equation for a adiabatic process. This gamma is called adiabatic index. And for this adiabatic process, the equation is PV to the power gamma equal to constant. Clear? Right. Now coming to the last process. Okay, the last step, that is step 3. Okay, so step 3 is discharge or exhaust stroke. Exhaust stroke. Okay, so what happens during this exhaust stroke? Okay, so during this exhaust stroke, exhaust valve will open. Exhaust valve opens, and compressed air, because during this process we have compressed the air, the atmospheric air we have already compressed during this process. So during this exhaust stroke, exhaust valve opens and compressed air is delivered to storage tank and compressed air is delivered to storage tank at constant pressure. So one more video also I will show you after this derivation. Okay, so what happened during this exhaust stroke? Exhaust valve will open and whatever the compressed air are there inside the cylinder, those compressed air will be supplied to the storage tank at constant pressure. So constant pressure means again it will be a horizontal line. Okay, so it will comes like this. Here also pressure equal to constant. So in this line, the pressure is suppose P2, and in this line, suppose the pressure is P1. Okay. And at this point, okay, at this point, suppose the volume is here, the volume is V1, and at this point, suppose the volume is here, the volume is suppose V2. Okay, so this is the working principle. So here in this line, the pressure is P1, suction process, isentropic compression process, PV to the power gamma equal to constant, and this is the expansion or exhaust process. Point pressure in this process, pressure is constant, that is P2. At this point, this is 0.1. So here the volume is V1. This is 0.2. So here the volume is V2. Clear? So this diagram you have to do, and regarding this diagram, some 2-3 points you have to write in this manner. Very simple. After that, the derivation part we will start. How to calculate the work done. So before that, first I will show you how to calculate it. This diagram once again I will draw here. First I will tell you what we are going to do, then we will start it. This is pressure, this is volume. Okay, here in this line the pressure is P1. Here PV to the power gamma equal to constant, and in this line the suppose the pressure is P2, and in this point this is 0.0, this is 0.1, this is 0.2, this is 0.3. In this point suppose the volume is V1, and in this point we have got the volume as V2. Okay, so what exactly our aim is? We have to calculate the work done. Our aim is we have to calculate the work done. Okay, so in PV diagram, which one is the work done? This is suction process, this is compression process, this is expansion process. So area under this process represents the work done by the compressor. Okay, so which is the area? So this is the closed area. If you can see closely, so this is the total area. Yes or no? Because this is suction stroke 0 to 1, 1 to 2 compression, 2 to 3 expansion. So which is the closed area? So this is the closed area. So this area represents the work done in the compressor. Okay, so our aim is we have to find out this area. Clear? So this is our aim. Now how to find out this area? Okay, so I am going to distribute this diagram into 3 separate diagrams. Okay, you will get to know what exactly I am trying to do. So I am going to distribute this diagram, this PV diagram, into 3 separate PV diagrams. Pressure versus volume. This is also pressure versus volume. In exam, you do not have to do all these things. What you have to do in the exam, that I am going to write in this paper. Okay. Just for your understanding, I am doing all these things. So what I will do first, what is the so 3 processes we have. For 3 processes, I have plot 3 diagrams. What is the first process? Suction process. So first process is suction. So which line represents suction process? 0.0 to 1. This is 0.0. This is 0.1. This represents suction process. And at this point, what is the volume here? Volume is V1. And what is the pressure in this line? Pressure is suppose P1. Okay. In this line, pressure is P1. In this point, volume is V1. So what is the area? Area means it will indicate this area. Okay. So this is nothing but a rectangle. and area of the rectangle is length into breadth. What is this length? This length is V1. What is the width? The width is this small distance is P1. So area of this suction process is P1 into V1. Yes, V1 into P1, correct. 344, Prasad. Okay, so this is the area. Similarly, suction. So I will come to exhaust process. This one I will come later. So during the exhaust stroke, which indicates exhaust stroke? Exhaust stroke indicates this process, 0.2 to 0.3. Okay, so this one. This is suppose 0.2. This is suppose 0.3. This is the exhaust process. Now, what is the area under the exhaust process? This is the area. So if I will draw here at this point, since this is 0.2, here my volume is V2, and in this line, the pressure I have taken. What is the pressure in this line? Pressure is P2, because this is a constant pressure line. So pressure I have taken P2. This pressure is P2. Yes. So what is the area for this exhaust process? So this is the complete area. Okay. So during the exhaust stroke, this area, if A3 I will talk about. So the area will be, okay, 344. What you have written? V2 into P2, exactly. Okay. So this is also a rectangle. Area of the rectangle is length into width. What is this length? This length is V2. What is this width? This width is P2. So area is V2 into P2 or P2 into V2. Right? Okay. So we have completed suction process. We have completed exhaust process. Now we will come to this adiabatic process or isentropic process. Okay. So the second one is adiabatic or isentropic process. Okay. So which is this process? This process 1 to 2. Process 1 to 2 means it will looks like this. This is 0.1. This is 0.2. Here PV to the power gamma equal to constant. This is our polytropic process, sorry, isentropic process or adiabatic process. So in this process, which is the area? So if I will project here from this point a vertical line, so this volume is suppose V2. Okay, and at this point, what is the pressure? Here the pressure is P2, and in this point, if I will project here, here the volume becomes V1, and what is the pressure over here? In this line, pressure is P1. Okay, here in this line, pressure is P1, and in this line, pressure is P2. At this point, volume V1, at this point, volume V2. Same thing I have written there. So can anybody tell me in thermodynamics, in unit 1 only, this is there. What is the work done during the adiabatic process? If here the pressure is P1 V1 and here the pressure is P2 V2, in this point we have the pressure P1, volume is V1. In this point, what is the pressure? P2 and volume is V2. During this adiabatic process or isentropic process, what will be the work done? Formula. Can anybody tell? Already in thermodynamics, you might have studied this thing. Work done during adiabatic process. So this is the area I have to calculate this area. This is the work done during the adiabatic process. So can you tell me what is the formula? 1 by 2 b. No, it is not a triangle. If it is a right angle triangle, you can tell half base into height. But this is not a triangle. Do you think it is a triangle? If this is like this manner, if this is an inclined line, then you can tell this is a triangle, and you can tell area is half base into height. And also this is also not a triangle, because this is not a straight line. Adiabatic process is a curve process. Okay, so I think you have forgot this. So I am writing it. I hope you can remember. So work done during the adiabatic process is P2 V2 minus P1 V1 whole divided by, yes, exactly. This is the work done during polytropic process. Okay. P2 V2, high temperature, high pressure is P2, low pressure is P1. So P2 V2 minus P1 V1 divided by gamma minus 1. Since it is an adiabatic process, so that's why we have written gamma. If it is a polytropic process, instead of gamma, we should write small n. Okay, because for adiabatic process, if it is a adiabatic process, then the equation is PV to the power gamma equal to constant. If it is a polytropic process, then the equation is PV to the power n equal to constant. The formula remains exactly same. This is the work done during a adiabatic process. If they will ask you the work done during polytropic process, so only in place of gamma you have to write small n. Only that is the difference. Okay. So this is the work done. Okay, and this increases the second area A2. Okay, so first area A1 is this one for the suction process. This is the area A1. For the compression process, this is the total area, that is A2. And for the exhaust process, this is the total area, that is A3. Three area we have calculated. Now, can you tell me what is our requirement? Our requirement is we have to calculate for this derivation, to calculate the work done, total work done during the compression process, we have to calculate this area. This is our requirement. So from this three diagram, can you tell me what I should do with A1, A2 and A3 so that I can get this area? I got A1, this is the area for A1, A2, this is the area, A3, this is the area. This figure I have distributed in three separate figures. A1 I got, A2 I got, A3 I got. But what is my requirement? My requirement is I have to calculate this much area. So what expression I should write in terms of A1, A2 and A3 so that I will get this much area? Can you tell? Whether I should write A1 plus A2 plus A3, or I should write A1 plus A2 minus A3, or I should write A1 minus A2 plus A3, like that, what I should write so that I will get this area? Just you use your brain and tell me. Anyone? I think my question is not clear. A2 plus A3 minus A1. Yes, 309 Ramesh. Ramesh is exactly correct. Good. A2 plus A3 minus A1. Yes. So my
Sir,
aim is we have. Yes, yes.
A2
What?
value
A2 value. Your voice is not audible.
సరే A2 కింద రెక్టాంగిల్ కూడా వచ్చింది.
A2. I am not able to hear your voice. How this A2 is coming, you are asking, huh? How I have written the A2 value, you are asking. You put a message, I am not able to hear you. If you are asking how A2 value this much I have written, okay, so this is the direct formula. If you want, then after this derivation, I will explain this, because for this one more derivation is there, one more integration we have to do. This for this adiabatic process, the equation is PV to the power gamma equal to constant. If we will integrate this one on both the side, if we do the integration, after integration, we will get this formula. So already in thermodynamics, you might have studied this formula. That's why directly I have written this one. But if still you have doubt, after the derivation, if time is there, I will do the derivation and I will prove this formula, how it came. But still I am not able to hear your question. 344, you can type a message. Okay. So the thing is, our aim is we have to calculate this area. So how to calculate this area? According to 309 exactly, we have to do A2 plus A3 minus A1. If this thing we are doing, then this area we can get. Why? Because what is A2? What is A2? A2 indicates this area. So in this diagram, this area indicates A2. Okay. What is A3? A3 means this one. A3 indicates this complete area. Okay. Means in this diagram, if you will see, this is A2, this curve represents A2, this curve represents A3. So if I will add A2 and A3, means area under this curve. So this total area you will get. Okay, A2 to this area curve represents A2, this curve represents A3. If I will do A2 plus A3, yes, 344, correct. If I will do A2 plus A3, then from area from this point to this point, this total area I will get. From this, if I will subtract A1, A1 means this area. If I will subtract this area, then I will get this one. Okay, that's why I am going to do A2 plus A3 minus A1. Right, so quickly we will do it. We will try to complete. The required area, required work done is equal to A2 plus A3 minus A1. Okay, that implies work done equal to, what is A2? A2 we have written, we have got P2 V2 minus P1 V1 by gamma minus 1. So in place of A2 we will write P2 V2 minus P1 V1 divided by gamma minus 1. What is A3? A3 is P2 into V2 plus A3 value P2 into V2 minus A1. A1 is P1 into V1. So minus P1 into V1. Okay, so A2 value is this much, A3 value is this much, A1 value is this much. That implies little bit simplification we will do, work done equal to. So here P2 V2 minus P1 V1 is there, and here also you can say this is also P2 V2 minus P1 V1. So I will take common P2 V2 minus P1 V1. So P2 V2 minus P1 V1. If I will take common, so what will be there? Here it will be 1 divided by gamma minus 1, and here it will be plus 1. So try to understand this thing. What I have done, this P2 V2 minus P1 V1, it is there, and here also P2 V2 minus P1 V1. This P2 V2 minus P1 V1 I have taken common. So here it will be 1 divided by gamma minus 1 plus, so here plus, so here this thing I have taken common, so we have only 1, which is equal to P2 V2 minus P1 V1. Okay, LCM becomes gamma minus 1, and here it will be 1 plus gamma minus 1. Okay, so plus 1 minus 1 will get cancelled. That implies work done equal to, this will be gamma by gamma minus 1, gamma by gamma minus 1 whole into P2 V2 minus P1 V1. So you can do up to this, you will get full marks. Okay, otherwise if we want to convert this in terms of temperature, okay, so for ideal gas we know PV equal to MRT. Yes or no? So in place of PV we can write MRT. So in place of P2 V2, in case of P1 V1, we can write MRT1. M means mass of the air. Similarly, in place of P2 V2, we can write mass of the air RT2. Okay, so we can write this thing if you want to convert this one in terms of temperature. So what it will becomes? So W equal to gamma divided by gamma minus 1. In place of P2 V2, we will write MART2. MA means mass of air, or simply M also you can write, your wish. P2 minus, in place of P1 V1 we can write MA RT1. Okay, that implies work done equal to gamma by gamma minus 1. MR is common, so MR we will take common. It will be T2 minus T1. Okay. Again, what we will do, this T1 we will take common. Work done equal to gamma divided by gamma minus 1 mass of air. This T1 we will take outside. So if this T1 we will take outside, it will becomes T2 by T1 minus 1. Okay, what I have done here, this T1 I have taken common. If T1 will go outside, it will becomes T2 by T1 minus, it will becomes 1. And what is the relationship between temperature and pressure for an isentropic process? For isentropic process in unit 5 already we have studied. For isentropic process, the relationship between temperature and pressure, T2 by T1 is equal to P2 by P1, yes, all to the power, yes, gamma minus 1 by gamma, right? So in place of T2 by T1, we can write this thing. That implies work done equal to gamma divided by gamma minus 1 mass of air RT1. In place of T2 by T1, we will write P2 by P1 whole to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma. P2 by P1 whole to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma minus 1. So this is the final expression. If you will do this much, full 5 marks you will get. Okay. So this is the total work done during a isentropic compression process. In exam, I will show you the question, what modification they will do, but you don't get confused. Okay. In exam, this question number 7A, they have written derive the expression for work done when the compression is isentropic. Isentropic means, I told you, isentropic means reversible adiabatic only. Okay, whatever the derivations we have done, this one is for isentropic process. So isentropic means this adiabatic process, same as adiabatic process. That's why this gamma came. If in the question, if in the same question, they will modify, if they will ask when the compression is polytropic, in place of this isentropic word, they will write when the compression is polytropic process. Okay, when like that question, if they will ask that you have to do the derivation for polytropic, wherever you have written gamma, just replace gamma with small n. The diagram, theory, everything will remain same. Whatever the theory, whatever the diagram I have done, everything will remain same. If they have asked regarding isentropic process, you take gamma. If they will ask regarding polytropic process, you take small n. That is the only difference. Okay, wherever gamma you have written, in place of gamma, you have to write small n. So the final expression also you will get n by n minus 1, MRT, P2 by P1, n minus 1 by n minus 1. Okay, so separately we are not going to waste the time for the derivation of this polytropic process. The only difference is if they are asking regarding polytropic process, instead of gamma, you have to write small n. Where the diagram, figure, theory, everything will remain same. Just you replace gamma with n. If they are asking isentropic process, then this gamma. Sometimes they will ask regarding adiabatic process. For adiabatic process also, we have to take gamma, because isentropic process is same as reversible adiabatic process. Okay, and both these processes are represented with gamma. Isentropic process is same as reversible adiabatic process. So in the question, if they will ask you isentropic, you do the derivation with gamma. If they will ask you regarding adiabatic, you do the derivation with gamma. But if they are asking regarding polytropic process, then you just replace this n with, sorry, you just replace this gamma with n. Okay, so for polytropic process, the final work done, how much you will get? The final work done for this is for isentropic process. For polytropic process, if they will ask in the exam for polytropic process, okay, the final work done, just in place of gamma, you have to write n. So it will be n by n minus 1 ma rt p2 by p1 whole to the power. This will be n minus 1 by n. This is the final. Okay, if polytropic process, this is the answer. If adiabatic process, this is the answer. But mostly in exam, they have asked regarding this adiabatic process. That's why I have done the derivation for adiabatic process. In case if they will ask you regarding polytropic process, same derivation you just do. Okay, but just in place of gamma, you have to take small n. M equal to 1. Okay, this mass value that depends upon the question. If in the question paper, sometimes they will give the mass flow rate of this air. If this mass flow rate of air they are given, okay, 1.2 kg per second, something like that. If the mass value they have given, you have to put the mass value. But in the question paper, if nothing they will mention, then this M value by default you have to take 1. Okay, that depends upon the question. In the next class, we are going to solve some question related to this thing. Okay, so that depends. In the question paper, this mass value sometimes they will give 1 kg, 2 kg, 4 kg, 5 kg. If mass value they will mention, then we have to put the mass value over here. If mass value they will not give, then by default we have to take it as 1. If mass is 1, then this is the formula. This M value will not be there. Gamma by gamma minus 1 R into T, P2 by P1 whole to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma minus 1. Okay. So that is enough for today's class. Okay, whatever things we have discussed, at the end of the class, I am going to put in the group. If you have any doubt, you can ask now related to today's class, whatever we have discussed. If anybody is having any doubt, you can ask. Okay, if doubt is not there, then that is enough for today. Okay, all these things I will put in the group. Just go through it, and if you have any doubt regarding the derivation part, regarding the theory part, then you ask me in WhatsApp. So before ending the class, one more trick, one more reasoning question. Like yesterday we have done for triangle. Okay. So today one more question we will do. So tell me how much squares. So counting the squares. Suppose like that one question they will ask. I am not talking about the semester exam. If you will prepare for campus or if you will prepare for any government exams, okay. So in those exams they will ask. So how many squares are there in this figure? How many squares are there? Can anybody tell? What do you mean by square? Square means length equal to width. 344. You are telling there are 4 square. Okay. Anybody else? 305, 309, 302. They are telling 5 number of squares. 322. Okay. 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 So like that we are getting. So here there is now 4 square. 344. You are not correct. Right. It will be 5 square. Why? Because this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. And this total 1, this is also a square, na? So 4 plus 1, total 5 we will get. This is a simply this is a small figure, that's why you have able to count it and you can tell. Suppose we have a figure like this. In this figure, you tell me how many squares are there. Here you tell me, in this figure, how many squares are there? This is a small figure, you just counted, you tell me 5. Okay, correct. 344, 17. 21. Next. 21. 30. Next. Can you, okay, so 3 types of answer I am getting, 17, 21, 30. Can you tell me how we got 17? How we got 21 and how we got 30? Can you tell how you have calculated so fast? How 17, how 21, how 30? Can you tell? 4 into 5 plus 1. 4 into 5 plus 1. 4 into 5 plus 1. No. Okay, so the trick I am telling you how to, so 30 is the correct answer anyway. 17 is wrong. 21 is also wrong. 30 is the correct answer. So who gave the answer 30? 3, 2 and Naveen. Naveen, how you got the answer? 1 square plus 2 square plus 3 square plus 4 square. Yes, exactly correct. Okay, so here Naveen is correct. So here how many row we have? Okay, so this is row 1. This is row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4. How many column we have? This is 1, this is 2, sorry, this is 3, this is 4. Okay, so what we will do? What is the maximum number of row we have? Maximum number of row is 4. But Naveen, this 1 square, 2 square, 3 square, 4 square, whatever you are telling, if number of row equal to number of column, for like in this figure, number of row is 4, number of columns are also 4. In that case, you can tell 1 square plus 2 square plus 3 square plus 4 square equal to 30. You will get the right answer. But what happens if number of row are not equal to number of column? In that case, this formula does not work. Yes, 301 also correct. I will tell. But if I will modify this question, for example, suppose the question is like this. In this figure, in this here, you tell me how many squares are there. Here, how many squares are there in this figure? Okay, so 312. So in this figure, you cannot do like that. Whatever you have done here, 1 square plus 2 square plus 3 square for 4 square. Why you have done? Why you got the right answer here? Because here number of rows are equal to number of column. That's why you got the right answer. But here, how many rows are there? Sorry, how many columns are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. So how many column we have? So column is 4. How many row we have? 1. This is second row. This is third row. So we have 3 rows. Okay, so in this case, you will not get the right answer. So the trick is, okay, so this is also correct, but no need to remember this one. What you have to do? How many row we got? 4. How many column we got? 4. So 4 into 4. Then 1 you decrease. So what is, if you will decrease 1 means this 4 becomes 3. This 4 becomes 3. Again you decrease 1. This will be 2. Here this will be 2. Again decrease 1. This is 1. Here it is 1. Again decrease 1. So 0 into 0. Until and unless you are getting 0, you have to proceed. So what is 4 into 4? 16. 3 into 3, 9. 2 into 2, 4. 1 into 1, 1. 0 into 0, 0. If you will add all these things, 16 plus 9, 25. 25 plus 4, 29 plus 1, 30. That's why you got the correct answer over here. But here, similarly, in this question, how many rows we have? 3 rows. How many columns? 4 columns. So we'll write 3 into 4. Then 1 we will decrease. If we will subtract 1, so 3, if 1 decrease, you will get 2. From 4, if you will 1 subtract, you will get 3. Again, from 2, if you will decrease 1, it will be 1. And 3, if you will decrease 1, it will be 2. Again, from 1, if you will decrease 1, means it will be 0. And from 2, if you will decrease 1, means 1. So until and unless we are getting 0, we have to proceed. So 4 into 3 is 12. 2 into 3 is 6. 2 into 2 is 2. 1 into 0 is 0. So 24, no 24. So how much you will get here? 12 plus 6, 18. 18 plus 2, 20 will be the right answer. Okay. So in this manner, you can count the number of squares. Okay. For example, one last question, then we will complete the class. How many squares are there in this figure? How many squares are there? Answer it quickly. Anybody? Okay, 305, 40. 312, 40. Yes. Okay, now you got the clue how to do it. 311, 40. Correct. Okay, so the clue is how many columns are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many rows are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so columns are 5, rows are 4. So row is 4, column is 5. Then just decrease 1, 1. 3, it will be 4. It will be 2, it will be 3. It will be 1, it will be 2. It will be 0, it will be 1. Okay, so 5 into 4 is 20, 4 into 3 is 12, 3 into 2 is 6, 2 into 1 is 1, 0 is 0. Add all these things, you will get 40 will be there are total 40 squares. Okay, so yesterday we have learned regarding triangle. Today we have learned regarding squares. So that's all about today's class. Once again, we will meet in the next class. Be safe, be happy. Goodbye. See you tomorrow. Take care.
Right. A very good morning, my dear students. So is it audible?